I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Select Board on February 18th, 2025 at 6 o'clock. Additions and deletions to the agenda.
Yes, we'd like to take off, the Woodstock Village Conservative updates. They cannot attend tonight. They reached out to the chair and myself over the weekend to schedule a new time. So we'll do that when we have a chance. Then also we want to take off the FY25 sewer rates, setting, our finance department, they have to use a number of things, want more time to kind of go through and make sure the numbers are correct.
Okay, citizens' comments.
Byron? Good evening. One, I hate talking, although I can't.
You have to say your name and speak up a little bit.
Byron Kelly, Woodstock. I want to start off by again thanking the entire board. I've learned to appreciate, I always appreciate it, but I've really learned to appreciate it. Say that again, since the crap you all went through with the short-term rental. I can say that, regardless of where you stood on that. As our select board, you did it all in good faith. I didn't like personal attacks. That's why I started. So I want to start off like I always do, thanking each and every one of you for all of your diverse opinions and thoughts in this community. Then what I wanted to say, and it's not to criticize per se, it's to question based on the knowledge I'm trying to get, is, and it's going to go back to what I've said even before, getting things on public records. Different questions I've had, because I tried to go on the website, and said that before to find different things, is if there's new ordinances that are established, because it goes in there on like your minutes, your agenda, but when a new ordinance is established and people have X amount of days if they want to appeal that, I think that ordinance should be easily found on the web page. But that's just something I'd like to say because I can't easily find that. Maybe someone else can. And keeping with that, most of my questions are on public records, not on the web page. Article 6 of the Vermont Constitution talks about how citizens should be able to know what their government is doing. And with that, the public records law was established in Vermont. And there's a lot of exemptions. One of the things that got me to talk about that was on one of the issues currently going on in the community that's very divisive, and in my opinion, shouldn't be. And I have faith in the board will eventually work it out, is one of the records, one side is releasing records. One side can't release the records. I think that both sides in a contract, based on contracts that municipality has with certain employees, doesn't one allow them, regardless of what the law says on environmental law, I mean, on employment law. I think both parties have a contract that probably says, you can't say anything bad about us. We can't say anything bad about you. However, someone outside of that can say anything they want, which is so unfair, and the public doesn't realize it. I recognize that. So I wanted to state that. What happened is one of the things that was refused at first, and I'm not blaming the municipality for refusing, was in the standard, there was a reporter, Mike Donahue. Mike Donahue, in my opinion, is one of the best reporters that I've known in the state of Vermont. In my history with the Vermont State Police, and even since then, he used to work for the Burlington Free Press. He's now part-time and does other things. He can be to the point where it can be embarrassing. He can be very forceful, but he's a decent guy. Well, anyhow, the point that came out with Mike Donahue was one of the things that was refused that he asked for under public records. He made a comment that was, to me, more important than anything else. The reason it was denied was based on advice you got from attorneys who had lost that specific issue, and I believe it was Stone. And it was like, we're paying attorneys who lost at the Supreme Court on an issue they're advising us not to release. If that was true, that concerned me on the public records. I do understand that fine line you're walking on the public records. One, I would ask, I understand negotiation of any contracts not releasable. Negotiations. Once a contract is established, my question is, does that then become a public record? Meaning, one, could we know on how many employees have contracts, not union agreements, contracts, and are those contracts available? Are they public record? That's the first question. I don't need that answer. I'm more asking the board that, because I think it's kind of important. The other thing is contracts we have with other agencies. When I was going over, like, you all do a great job. But I was going over some of the things. We have contracts with different agencies. Now we have with like Bridgewater and conference in here talking and everything else. We have a dispatch contract with the sheriff's department. Once those contracts are established, we have a town has a contract with the village on police services. Based on when that was established, I know what that contract said. And unless it's been changed immensely, I believe this last 17 weeks, Woodstock has not had their contract fulfilled on the police services side. Are the contracts, sheriff's department, town with the village, for Bridgewater and everything else, are those public records? And if they are, very much like when you put something out for bid, I'm assuming we put something out for bid, the bids become part of public records. So someone can't come and say, oh, you gave it to this specific one. Example, the highway department with the new boiler. Was that an emergency? Someone didn't go, did you exempt it? Did it go out for bids? Those are just questions that people have. You know, if you want to be transparent on public access, are those public records? If not, why not do the transparency and put it online? For anyone. I mean, I know there can be some pain in that, but Article 6 specifically says, but if people are concerned, they have a right to then see some things that maybe would be withheld on time.
Those are in the minutes.
The contracts are.
No, the boiler specifically are in the minutes. So you're bringing up something.
No, I know.
Okay.
I'm just saying the boiler thing, but I don't know if those minutes have been approved yet. I think those were just the last meeting.
I believe so.
I
They're
don't.
on the agenda tonight.
No, yeah, the agenda tonight.
See, I'm not sure. So I brought it up because this is why I'm asking you now. But I'm just giving you examples of what it is. Tonight, I think one of the things going on is you have a union negotiation, which is clearly protected from public access. But once the negotiation, if it's finalized and agreed upon, are those contracts, are those agreements then public record? Because I don't see them anywhere. I don't see personnel policy anywhere that's public. Individual employees' records may be confidential, but is the personnel policy confidential? That's one of those other questions I had on the employees' rules and records. And then I mentioned the ordinances. So all of that is just about public records. I think if people saw some of those, they would understand. So that's all I have to say. Everyone.
Thank you, Byron.
Thank you,
Thank
Byron.
you. Any other citizens' comments?
I'm not seeing any online.
Okay. Managers report.
I'll be brief tonight. Just two things I want to highlight. One is, myself and other board members will be at Abu Dhabi tomorrow morning, to talk about the town warning. It's coming up in about 2 weeks. So if you have any questions, please join us at 9 a.m. tomorrow at Abracadabra, some coffee and budget and warrant talk. So we'll be there.
9 or 10?
9. Second, I wanna just first thank the public works crew. They've been out since Saturday, plowing. They're back plowing again tonight. It's today due to just kind of the windstorms blowing up. So again, another holiday spent for them out working kind of nonstop over 3 to 4 days. I also want to acknowledge because of that, they have not been able to do the snow removal in the village. I know there's been some concern with businesses on that. They're gonna start doing that tomorrow morning at 4 or 5 in the morning, do as much as they can before it picks up, and then go back tomorrow night to finish the snow removal. So it's just, as we talked about before, it's about a 4-hour process, turning over the equipment from plowing to snow removal. So when they've been plowing for 3 straight days, it's kind of impossible for them to turn around and change the equipment and then go back out and do more work. So we will get that sometime tomorrow and have it all cleaned up.
And we're noting that we're still 2 met down.
2 employees down, correct? Yes. That's correct.
That it?
Yeah.
Okay, the water acquisition update.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about a little bit this will be an executive session as we go through kind of the last steps of the negotiation on the purchase agreement. Our attorney will be involved in that conversation as well. But right now, we're still hoping to close end of March, take ownership of the company at that point, and then move forward. We've been holding weekly meetings internally to prepare for that. We have offer letters out to 2 of the Woodstock employees to come and join us post-closing, which we're excited about. And we're working through kind of how to change the billing from them over to us without any kind of hiccups for the residents.
The town meeting.
Yeah, so again, it's coming up soon. We're doing a public meetings. I think Laura's working on kind of a presentation like we did last year to kind of explain kind of what each article is before people vote on it. I'll also point to Laura's website where she kind of has already done that with the articles as well. And we're just trying to encourage people to be informed, come and vote on that Saturday. I think you were looking into childcare options.
Yeah,
Any update on
I'm
that?
talking to Change the World Kids about providing childcare upstairs. Assuming that we don't need the overflow, but hopefully we'll hear back and that they'll be able to take kids over certain age, between certain ages, like they did for the last water meeting, the last water vote, so. Yeah, it'll be downstairs.
We're also working with Pentangle to make sure the AV is all set up in time as well, so we should be able to pay for that.
Okay. Good, thank you. Dead River buyout, property buyout.
Yeah, so as the board's well aware, Dead River has applied through FEMA for a buyout. What that would entail is FEMA would come in and pay the appraised value of that property pre-flood of July 2023. And then at some point turn that property over to the town, so then become town property. We can't build on it. We'd have to turn it into some kind of park, bearing a study to make sure there's no chemicals in the ground because what it currently is. At that point, it would be town property. So you can't build on it. You can't have any structures that could kind of go away in a flood. There are some options that we could look at if we wanted to have certain things on there. But again, we will lose the taxes on it and gain the property as some kind of green space.
What is Dead River gonna do about the trucks that they park there, do you know?
So we're looking into whether there's any zoning or planning issues with that. I've reached out to Two Rivers to kind of get their feedback on it. But it also kind of stems the fact that that's not the board's problem. If they want to sell and turn that space over to the town, that's decision in front of you. Their problem with impact their vehicles is something they'll have to work through with us on to make sure that's allowable, but in this sense, it doesn't come into like your decision-making process.
But worth reminding them there is
Yes.
something in the regulations
Yes.
before they go through with it. What is the timeline for the process for the buyout?
I don't know the answer to that. I think it'll probably be slower these
Yeah, it
days than
takes a
we would-
while.
yeah.
I was involved in them after Irene.
Okay.
And, you know, there has to be an appraisal and title work and it takes a while.
Yeah, and the first step is the town approving for it, so the application goes in, and then if it's approved, we move forward.
Can it stay paved? Does it have to be a green space?
It has to be, I think Kevin from Two Rivers said it has to be a permeable surface.
Okay,
That makes sense.
yeah, no, just,
There used to be a gas station right as you went into Bridgewater, that got wiped out and that is now all green space. It was Blackie's or something like that. So
all right. Any other questions?
there's one online.
Oh, yeah, Todd.
Yeah, can the space be used for like a pop-up store, a station, you know, a pop-up little thing or anything like that for, as long as it's not a permanent structure?
That's
Okay.
something, I mean, I think a 1 day thing might be permissible. It's not a structure, but we want to look what the rules are, what we could have there.
Okay, that's good. Because I
I
think
know
it'd be good to use it for something, you know, if people wanted to do that and utilize the space. It's a great location.
Thank you. Right. So is there a motion to approve the property buyout for Dead River?
So it's the application. Yeah,
The application.
You're approving it.
I'll make the motion to approve the application for the buyout of the Dead River property.
Second,
Is all those in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you. We need to schedule an on-farm restaurant public hearing.
I think Stephanie mentioned she was looking at the end of March, early April. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so we need time to warn the meeting. So we're gonna make sure we have at least 30 days. I think it's actually 15 days.
15, yeah.
15 to warn the meeting. Obviously 15 days from now is big town meeting day, so we don't wanna bump into that.
March 31st, April 1st? In the evening?
Right now, there's nothing on the schedule.
I
for
think
it.
she picked those days saying there was nothing on the schedule. Right.
31st works.
Sorry,
31st works.
31st,
Yeah.
Monday, the 31st.
Greg,
This point.
too far in the future.
Yep.
It depends if it snows.
Oh, you have company?
I'll be here.
So March 31st.
That feels like forever. away.
5:30,
Yeah.
6 o'clock,
5:30?
5:30?
5:30?
5:30.
Yeah, I think 5:30. We need to vote on that or is,
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
I will make a motion that we have a public hearing on the on-farm restaurant ordinance on a regulation on March 31st at 5:30.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Now we have to reschedule the select board meeting of March 18th and also have to schedule a meeting.
Reorg.
Reorg meeting for March 5th.
I'm out of town March 5th, but if you did it in the afternoon, I could Zoom.
March 5th,
Wednesday.
during the day or at night.
Afternoon is fine with me. If that
Planning
works.
commission that night.
Yeah, there's also a village design advisory board at 4 PM that day. So we
We put
do,
2 or
Two.
3.
Okay,
I know Greg, you're a maybe.
2:00.
Yeah, I'll probably be on Zoom too.
What was that date? March fifth.
right, the day after town meeting, the second town meeting.
And then to move the meeting on the 18th. Because that's the village
Yeah,
meeting.
well, could we do that March fifth?
I
we
think
wanna
it's-
do it later in the month.
I think we might have more on that. I mean, it's our regular meeting, so I'm worried about doing it in the afternoon rather than the evening.
Just don't have an agenda.
I can't do it later.
I was
Pretty
thinking
sure I
the
got-
25th at 6.
Yeah, so just moving it a week later, regularly scheduled time.
I can't do the 25th.
Okay.
I can do the 26th.
26th, there's a village development review board at 5:30
24th?
on Monday, it's open.
Okay,
24. So Wednesday and two Mondays.
yeah. 24th. Okay.
Sure.
Need a motion.
Oh,
We need a motion for the,
all 3 dates?
motion to
Reschedule them,
reschedule, well, we
Ma-
just did a motion for the on-farm.
right, but we need to a motion for the 5th at 2:00 and the 24th at 5:30.
Do we need motions for calendar?
I think it's safe to do it.
Okay.
Okay.
So I would move, we have a reorganization meeting at 2:00 on Wednesday, March 5th. I gotta find the others.
24th at 5:30.
A regular meeting on, Monday, March 24th at 6:00.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now, wastewater plant form documents.
Yes, we have 2 documents. One will be that, and then we'll move on to the water bonds that should have been down there as well. So first is just the signature and agreement for the Vermont State Revolving Fund. It's a $1.2 million delinquent loan to go towards the main wastewater plant.
So no matter what the cost, final cost.
Yeah.
Okay.
There a motion?
That's not just Elm Street, it's
No,
goes to everything?
this is the main wastewater plant.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we accept and sign the application for the revolving loan fund.
Yes.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. So you guys on that after the meeting. Up next, and Matt Bloomer's here is kind of go over the bonds for the wastewater, for the water systems, and what that would entail. Hey, Matt, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
So Matt, do you want to kind of give us an overview of what the signatures would mean and the bond itself?
Sure. Yeah, thanks for having me. I think we thought it would be useful to have someone from our firm here to answer questions. We had sent over 66 pages for you to take a look at and several to sign. It's much like a mortgage transaction where a lot of it is boilerplate bank documentation that probably no one wants to read all the way through. But the gist of it is you're signing a resolution and certificate. That's the page number 1. It's a few page document. There's several exhibits to that particular document, but the closing for the bond for the water system is scheduled for March 6th. So what we're looking for to get from you and then to be able to deliver to the bond bank prior to the closing is those signed documents. I think we sent you hard copies with sign here tabs to assist with the several signatures that are necessary. But just to hit the high points, and again, if there are any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them. So the transaction at a 30,000 foot level will be that you will issue a $7.5 million bond, and you'll transfer that bond to the Vermont Municipal Bond Bank in exchange for a $7.5 million loan from them. So there's a loan agreement that's attached to the resolution and certificate that you have. That loan agreement, again, is just much like any other bank agreement that you might sign. What we're asking you to do is approve those documents, authorize their execution, and then make certain certifications to the bond bank. And again, this is all accomplished by your approving and adopting that resolution and certificate tonight. Some of the key certifications, just so that you're aware, again, I don't think any of these you'll have an issue with, but just to hit the highlights, you're certifying that the bond and the loan agreement are valid and binding obligations of the town, that the bond is payable from taxes, that the select board members are all validly elected, and that there's no litigation seeking to have anyone removed. The town, all the information that the town has provided thus far is true and correct. All the proceedings related to the bond have complied with the open meeting laws and Public Records Act. That's what is in the resolution and certificate. The loan agreement has some of its own terms. Again, those are pretty standard for loans. I won't belabor that unless anyone has a particular question. And I think the main thing is we're just hoping to get hard copies of the document back sometime maybe by the 26th or 27th, and that'll give us enough time to get hard copies. I believe the closing is in Boston, so we'll need to get those sent down there ultimately.
You want to ask your question?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Susan Ford. One question I had is if we are successful in raising money toward the Vondel Cobb portion of this, can that money be applied to reduce the bond payment, the principal?
So yeah, so my colleague Bob Fletcher, who's our official bond counsel, I think he sent back an answer to that question. I don't know if you had seen that yet, Susan, but the gist of it is that I guess unfortunately the bond bank is planning on you borrowing the full $7.5 million and paying all of the payments on that with interest. So they have their own financial obligations that are contingent upon the interest that they believe that they would receive over the course of the loan from the town. So the short answer is that you can't prepay and save any of the interest expense. What I was saying to Eric today is that obviously that money can be used for other, if you do the next phase of water system improvements, if it turns out that there's other repairs that are needed, you may be able to reduce a future bond amount. But at this juncture, because the application has been made for the $7.5 million, and that's what they're planning to go to their, what they're selling into the market, there isn't, unfortunately, a way to save even if you come up with additional funds between now and the end of the bond.
We know about the Lynn Trust.
We'll know in May. We'll know whether we get a substantial sum in May from a grant that's been applied for,
Okay.
but too late, evidently.
Yeah, I think too late to offset this particular bond, but as I said, it would be money in your coffers to do whatever unless it has strings attached to it. Assuming that it has no strings attached, I'm assuming you'll find a use for it either within the water system or otherwise within the town.
No. I think that's a, yeah, that feels like a deal breaker for a lot of things.
Byron has a question. I don't know, do the board have
Do it.
questions?
So the select board has any more questions from that first?
I don't.
I guess my only, sorry, Matt, my only question.
Yeah.
Um. Is there any way to accommodate the funds either from the grant, like creatively speaking? That we haven't thought of yet?
I can give it some more thought and put my head together with Bob as well. I think the bond funds maybe potentially could be repurposed to another use. So if, it's sort of six in one hand, half dozen the other. I think one way or the other, you will be on the hook to borrow the full 7.5 million from the bond bank. But whether you could offset some of the Vondel purchase with your grant and then repurpose that portion of your $7.5 million bond to another, eligible use, that's probably more promising than just say if it's a $500,000 grant, saying to the bond bank, we only want to borrow 7 million. From my understanding, based on Bob's response to Susan's question, is that that's not an option.
But so, in a world, Matt, we got $500,000 from the bond bank in May. No interest, sorry. There's a world potentially where that $500,000 in the bond could then maybe go towards the first step of a new water tank in 3 or 4 years.
The only other issue, I guess, is that I think within the loan documents that you have, you are representing that you will spend, I think, 85% of the funds within the first 3 years, something to that extent. So there's a bit of a time limit on your use of the $7.5 million. So that would maybe be the only hurdle. There may be other. I assume that there could be other costs that crop up with respect to the water system that these funds could be, either the bond could be repurposed to, or again, the funds coming in from the grant could be used to offset whatever expenses do pop up.
This
Is
is
there-
Carrie Cole. I can't imagine this would happen, but if we didn't spend the money in that time frame, what happens to the money?
That's a good question. There may be a way, again, to repurpose it to other projects. Probably a better question actually for Bob Fletcher, for me to ask Bob Fletcher and to get back to you. It's a similar situation where, again, with the bond bank pulling everybody's the applications together for what everybody wanted to borrow, they're going to sell, I think, 67 million or whatever the number is, out into the market. So if they aren't generating if they're not getting $7.5 million from the town, it throws off the economics of their deal. So if you take the example of if there are 15 towns that have applied for funds, they've used that number to then go out and sell the bonds into the market. If none of those towns ended up actually wanting any of that money, there would be a major issue with the folks that they had sold the bonds to, and so that's why the obligation is basically there right now for the municipality to borrow the full 7.5 million that it's represented to the bond bank that it needs.
So it wouldn't be an option at this point to say we want to borrow 600,000 less.
Yeah, like we couldn't change the application.
I don't believe so, because I think they're in the process now of whatever their marketing and whatnot, with the closing being scheduled for just a couple weeks out. I think they've either have buyers on on the hook or are far enough along in the process that we wouldn't be able to do that. But we can certainly ask them, at least if it's an option.
Yeah, I would think we wanna ask.
Yeah, I
think
tried
so
to,
too.
I tried to connect with the bond bank today and we played phone tag and we didn't, I weren't able to connect. In an email to me though, they claimed it could be a workaround if we did get extra funds, but it was an email, so they didn't go into depth of what that actually could be. Matt, what do you think the drop dead date that you guys would need the wet signatures?
Bob was asking if we could have them by the 27th.
9 days.
That would get, there may be a little bit of buffer there that he's built in, just so that, none of us are hopping in the car and having to drive down to Boston to get them there. So if you do need a little bit of additional time, I can get a better time frame from him.
I wonder if the board wants to take some time and have calls and maybe we want a meeting for Tuesday, the 25th.
Yeah, yep. I think that makes sense. And I can also, I'll check in with the land trust just to see if there's any, the grant application just went in, but
Yeah.
maybe they could give us a weather report.
And Matt, do you need the documents in Burlington or in Bali? Would it go from here to Burlington or here to Boston?
They would go to Woodstock, from Woodstock to Burlington first. I think we would just double check that everything's in order, and then they'd be sent down to Boston.
So a theory where I could drive up to Burlington one day and drop them off at the offices if time was needed.
Yes. Yep. Actually, Bob made a joke that he was trying to avoid you having to do that, but if it comes to that, then we'll see you up there.
Yeah, okay. So do you want to, I know, fireman a question, but do you want to quickly look at where we could meet on Tuesday, the 24th?
Monday, the
24th.
Sorry.
I have something at 2:00, but otherwise I'm free.
I'm pretty free in the morning.
Why can't we do it the 24th?
I'm not sure what time I'll be back from.
Okay, no, that's fine. The 25th works.
When 8:30 in the morning, 9 a.m.
8:30 is
works?
good.
8:30 works.
Byron Kelly, Woodstock again. Just a comment first of all, it confused me a little bit when it's warned as 2025 sewer rate wastewater plant bond documents. It's really aqueduct bond, I think.
Yeah, this was to fall under, both and also the water system acquisition
I'm
update.
just
Yeah,
saying that.
yeah.
That's the first thing. The other comment that I would have is on the $7-something million bond. I appreciate everything Susan's done with the land trust. I mean, that's fantastic. That's what the voters were told when we voted that we might be able to lower it. There is an issue that you will have to deal with now. If $600,000 comes in that you have to borrow, what can you use it for? There's going to be a lot of people that have ideas because everyone always has ideas for money. An idea of saying, well, we could use it for the East End tank. The town taxpayers didn't vote for anything other than this section of purchasing and bringing it into the village. My only thought would be to plant the seed for all of you is if there's $600,000 that can be diverted somewhere else in the bond, I would suggest that you highly think about, you've already committed to a new fire truck and putting money in a capital reserve towards that purchase. That way, you're not spending taxpayers' money that's been approved in something other than what's already been approved. That's the only comment on it.
Thank you, Byron. So I would move that we table the water bond documents until discussion on, I've forgotten the date already. February 25th at 8:30 in the morning.
there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And we're gonna move into executive session now. For a motion to enter executive session under one VSA 313. Discuss potential contracts that have to make a specific finding that premature general public knowledge would clearly place the public body or person involved at a substantial disadvantage.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Section 8 is a part of the executive session. It's not an open. Or is it?
Is
I
what
can
kind of,
open here.
the meeting?
Yeah, it says, because you go executive session, and then it says vote on the dispatch contract. Is that within executive session?
So they're gonna discuss the dispatcher contract. If they're comfortable with it, they'll come back and vote on it. If not, they'll postpone it.
Okay, well, that was just.
Yeah.
Worth waiting around. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Byron.
I'll get that. I'll make those soon.
Apparently, yeah.
Approval of the minutes.
So this time, we're gonna move the dispatcher contract till Tuesday.
Yep. Okay. Approval of the minutes.
I move, we approve the minutes for January 29th, January 31st, February 11th.
No second. All those in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
He's adjourned.